Tom Standage joins us now, Deputy Editor and Head of Digital Strategy at The Economist. Tom, on the front cover, you've got syringes, Xi, Biden and wind turbines. So does that suggest that we're still going to be talking about the pandemic front and centre, China-US relations and climate change into next year?
Yes, absolutely. But I think obviously we've seen the pandemic has rather eclipsed the discussion of other topics lately. And I think what we're going to see in 2022 is these other longer term trends like US-China tensions and the need to tackle climate change really coming much further up the agenda. And we hope the pandemic fading more into the background.
Highlighted some of the topics. I got a little bit more interested in the midterms next year, and already it seems as though there's a question mark around donors, around the Democrats. What's the challenge from Biden for here domestically to try and rally the troops?
It's not just rallying the troops domestically. Obviously, that is difficult. Getting people to sort of get out and go and bat for the Democrats' agenda and what they've achieved so far, which, you know, looked at from some angles is quite impressive. But they just don't seem to be breaking through and don't seem to have convinced people that they've got traction. But then he's also got this broader international challenge, which is rallying democracies. He's about to have his summit for democracies. And we're going to have this very interesting tension just as the midterms are happening in the US. We're going to see the Congress, the Communist Party Congress in China, which is going to be very, very different. It's going to be very stage managed. Xi Jinping is going to smoothly glide to, you know, another few years in power when he should be stepping down. Normally, you know, communist leaders step down after 10 years in China. And so you're going to have the chaos and the pandemonium of democracy on the one hand, and you're going to have this very different approach in autocratic China. And no wonder the Chinese are going to be saying, well, this shows you that democracy is dangerous and unstable when you know, the leader of the most powerful country in the world supposedly is about to get a real drubbing from his own electorate.
Yeah, Tom, funny enough, that's exactly where I wanted to come back on the democracy versus autocracy debate, which I know the Economist is picking up again for 2022 as well, because the assault on liberal democracies has been relentless. And yet I notice on a different front, for instance, the French, when you speak to Le Maire or Macron, they really want a more robust, liberal democratic EU putting its footprint on geopolitics as well. Is it too narrowly framed if we just talk about this as China versus the US? This is going to play out on many fronts, isn't it?
No, that's the whole point, that it's China and America are arguing, you know, in a much more existential way about whose political system is better, and they are both trying to demonstrate to the world in 2022 that their way of doing things, you know, provides social stability and growth and innovation and so on. China's going to have its space station completed next year, and it will say, look, you know, that shows that we're a global power as well. But also, I think the democracy versus autocracy and the health of democracy is going to be one of the prisms through which we see many other events next year. You mentioned the election in France, but also the elections in Brazil and Hungary are going to be litmus tests for just how much appetite people in democracies have for populists who offer easy answers to complicated problems. And you know, in all three of those cases, we could see the populist candidate, you know, told by the electorate that actually we've had enough of this, or we might not. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see, you know, which way those three elections in particular go.